time for Lykken on Lending.
Welcome, everybody. Good to have you with us.
Welcome to Lykken on Lending, a weekly mortgage market update providing up-to-the-minute information on interest rates, loan programs, and hot industry news, all related to the mortgage industry. Brought to you by Transformational Mortgage Solutions. To participate in today's program, our guest call-in line is 646-716-4972. Now here's your host of Lykken on Lending, David Lykken.
Let's begin.
Listeners, I am excited about every podcast, but this one has got some really interesting information for you. You're going to want to pay attention because we're all trying to figure out how do we get in front of the consumer, because it's all about the consumer. We're trying to help consumers, right? Well, I can't wait to share with you two new people, new friends that I've come in deep relationship with, and I'm very excited for them to share the vision that they have. Meet Dustin Gray. Dustin, good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
And Ashley Terrell. Ashley is a newest friend, and I'm getting to know her. She's located in Southern California. Dustin is located here in Austin. They have created something that's really excited. And Dustin, this is your child. This is something you birthed, and you've invited Ashley. What I'm also impressed with, Dustin, is how you surround yourself with some of the most brilliant people. So you're going to want to listen to the brilliance of Dustin's ideas and the brilliance he had in bringing in brilliant Ashley. That sounds like a lot of brilliant talk. How about that? Anyway, so excited to have you both here. Dustin, let's get started on this. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dustin Gray, and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, to be honest, David, I really never thought that I'd be here. I've been working in the real estate tech industry for the last 27 years, starting when I was a high school student in the 90s, kind of at the beginning of the internet, and certainly didn't think I'd make a career out of it. So the story goes, I took a job to earn money for spring break, answering the phones at a commercial brokerage firm back in Michigan where I grew up. And I was going to stick around for 2 or 3 months, earn some pocket money for spring break, and then leave the following year to go to college. Instead, it's been the last quarter century for me building technology to
a nice derail.
Right, the best laid plans never work out. Yep. But I've spent the last quarter century building tech to help modernize the real estate industry. But at the same time, because I come from industry, quite literally from the formative years, it's been trying to strengthen the human relationships that really underpin real estate, mortgage, and all things related thereto.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And then what's really exciting about your journey, and I should say this, one of my clients introduced me, who I was working with at the time, introduced me to you when you were over at realtor.com. And it was before that was the name of the company. I've already forgotten it. Your company that you worked at where you and I met.
Well, for a while, I worked at a company called RealPage, which did all things rental housing. And if you're a renter in the United States, you probably have interacted with RealPage in some way. You probably just didn't know it.
Well, let's toss it over to you, Mark.
Dustin, 27 years is certainly a long time. And my experience has always been when somebody begins a journey, there's some special milestones along the way. That's a pun, milestone. But anyway, could you tell us a little bit about the milestones along your journey that got you from where you were to where you are today?
Well, from starting out in a real estate brokerage company, I did a 5-year apprenticeship and basically put my way through college. And around that time, this is going back a very long time to pre-2000, I found it really difficult to get the information needed to sell and lease buildings, which is where I started. And so as a somewhat naive but opportunistic college student, we made a commercial multiple listing service. And that started in a dorm room, but then it started to grow and grow and grow. And so it ended up in about 80 cities in North America. And eventually it was acquired by Moody's, the data analytics company. After that, I went on to Deloitte and RealPage and realtor.com, mostly in leadership positions and mostly focused on applying real estate tech for businesses, for renters, and now for homeowners. And along the way, my wife also took a job in the mortgage industry. So I had kind of a front row seat into looking at these transactions from a lender's perspective as well.
Outstanding. Sounds extremely hands-on. That's great.
I kind of think that if you're in an industry, unless you really operate and work and put yourself in the shoes of a mortgage lender or a realtor, you can't really build technology for them or for their clients until you've walked in their shoes. And that's something I take great pride in because I've had a lot of time spent walking in those shoes and working hands-on with those clients.
Walking in someone's shoes gives you unique insights. So if you were to say, if you've picked up on one thing you've learned, what stands out to you in that journey?
I know this is going to sound cliche, but very early on, a mentor in the industry told me the real estate business is the people business. And the biggest takeaway I've had in 27 years doing this is that that insight is absolutely correct. Real estate and mortgage are still relationship heavy industries built on trust in spite of all the things that have advanced with technology over the last couple of decades. It's still the largest asset class. It's very much in its infancy with respect to modernization. You've got this big, huge industry, which is heavily fragmented. It's localized. There are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of self-interested actors. And so the conclusion that I came to was trying to disrupt this industry, which is what a lot of technologists use, is a bad business model. Almost everybody who has tried to disrupt real estate or disrupt mortgage has failed. Instead, I look at our role as empowering an industry to do more, but not trying to fundamentally change the actors itself, because I think that that is probably a fool's errand in the end. So we've taken that perspective to Milestones, and everything that we do is about empowering lenders and empowering realtors to build those deeper relationships with clients.
That's a great point.
That certainly is, David. Actually, relative to Milestones, give me your take on Milestones from when you first got involved and where it's come to today. And I guess my question is, what gets you excited every day about Milestone and what it does for lenders?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's just as much about what it does for consumers as it is what it does for lenders. And I'll give an example. And David knows this. I'm a competitive equestrian. I have a horse. I'm a little over the top. He was actually imported over from Belgium. And when I bought him, my vet actually gave me a hub to manage everything for the horse. So everything from his vet records, his show schedule, his United States Equestrian Federation number, passport number, everything was in there and everything was branded to my vet and my trainer. It helps that they're married, but regardless, I don't think that their marital status has anything to do with who was co-branded on there. And it was super cool. So I've always had this thing to manage my horse out of. And it occurred to me, and this was about probably 12 months before I met Dustin, why do I not have something like this for me? Like, why is it that my closing documents are in a drawer in my office? My appliance warranties are in, a drawer in my kitchen. My paint swatches are still, or my paint cans, I guess, are still in my garage. Everything's in all these different places. And so I think that the opportunity that Milestones gives to homeowners is a little bit of that instant gratification of how do I manage all things in one place, almost like that Amazon experience, but it's something gifted to them, completely white labeled from their loan officer and or their realtor. And so if you look at where that relationship is and who that advisor is for your home, just like my vet and my trainer or my advisor for my horse, this is something that the loan officer can give to continue to maintain that relationship. And so all of those are just emotional factors on Milestones and how it helps. But even when you look at the business factor and you look at customer acquisition cost and you look at the fact that homeowners are in their home for more time than they're actually transacting and everything's always so focused around the transaction, how do we help reduce customer acquisition costs and also give an opportunity to still be positioned as the home advisor and maintain those long-term relationships with not only homeowners, but with realtors?
I want to jump on that horse part because I want to make sure everyone understands when you say there's a hub, first of all, just let you know, if you see this video, you see all the ribbons hanging behind Ashley. She is a champion operates in the competitive world of horses and has got champion ribbons all across the back of her room. You were talking when you bought this horse from Belgium, all the data about that horse went into a hub. And I want to make sure that everyone you understand that's what this Milestones is about putting consumer data in a place. And a hub is a technology place which data is stored, right? I want to just make sure that's crystal clear in everyone's mind.
And I also want to clarify that I got an email this week from the United States Equestrian Federation that they were excited to announce eSign
Wow.
here in November of 2022.
So here we have the question session moving ahead, moving a little as faster. We're trying to catch up with the mortgage industry. We're behind it. We're working hard to get e-signing into everything. That's electronic signing. That's very good. As you listen to this, Dustin, why did you name your company Milestones? I have an explanation, but I'm really interested in hearing yours. We can add and talk about that.
So I want to go back to the hub question, and I'll give you your answer,
Yeah,
David.
good.
We just use the term hub synonymous as with client portal. And if you
Yeah,
think about it, you have a client
there you
portal
go.
for your
That's
physician,
what I
you have
want.
a client portal for Travelocity if you book a trip, you have a client portal for pretty much everything. So from our perspective, we had this idea that really every home should have a client portal for the home. Now, if you think about who's going to give you that little portal or hub for the home,
Mhm.
it's probably the person who helped you get the home, which is the realtor, the lender, or maybe some combination of both. And so what we do is we create those client portals, aka hubs, and the realtor and the lender are embedded inside them. And along for the journey, which could be years, could be even longer, that somebody owns their home. And what you want is when somebody's ready to get another loan or get another home, you want them to come back to you, right? To Ashley's point, this is about loyalty and establishing those
Right.
long-term relationships as opposed to a one and done transaction, which is the norm in the industry. Unfortunately, you work with your lender once and then you kind of throw them away and never again. So that's what this is really all about. Now to your second question, why do we name the company Milestones? Kind of a silly story, but it was about 3 years ago. I came inside after mowing the lawn and it was stupidly hot in Texas as it usually is in the summer. And my son and his friend were sitting at the kitchen table and they were playing a game that I hadn't seen since I was a kid, which is the game of life. And for anybody who is listening to this podcast, if you remember the game of life, there's this winding little road and you spin a wheel and you move your car down this path and you pass through these different life milestones and you kind of collect money and little pegs that represent family members as you go through this journey. And at that moment, it occurred to me that most moves are triggered by something that happens in your life, whether that's married, baby, divorce, your job gets transferred, you have a health issue, you have an elderly parent that needs to move in with you, but you don't have enough room. These are the things that trigger almost 85% of moves. There's stuff that happens in your life. And when you move or when stuff happens in your life, usually you need to borrow money. And so milestones became a pun on that. And of course, as you're going through the lending process or going through the real estate process, there are little milestones you cross along the way on your journey to get that next home. So that's why we named the company Miles. In reality, though, most consumers will never see the word milestones directly because we are not a direct to consumer brand. We take the technology that our team builds, the app for homeowners, and that is white labeled by a mortgage company or by a real estate company. And it's all about their brand so that customers come back to them because a consumer doesn't know who Milestones is. You can't go to Milestones and sign up if you're a homeowner. That's just not something we offer. And we made that a very conscious choice to say, this is a business that's about empowering existing real estate,
Good.
mortgage, title, and escrow companies, et cetera, to
Like that.
get closer to consumers. We are not trying to get in the way of that. And that's really important to call out because at the end of the day, we are about building a private label app and making those connections tighter. We're not about trying to reach homeowners directly and then resell leads or things like that
Right.
to realtors or to lenders.
Yeah, something you said at a little bit earlier is this is a relationship business. Anyone who's been in this business any amount of time knows it is a relationship business. And what you're proposing with, and what you're not proposing, what you're launching is Milestones is an enabler to strengthen and build that relationship in a more meaningful way that lasts beyond just the single transaction.
You hit the nail on the head. I don't think we could have said it any better ourselves.
That's been a term that I came into contact with early in my career was, and I'm not going to take the time to explain it, but it was a term you might not have ever heard before. It's don't be open-minded or your brains will fall out. So applicable here because my brains are falling out right now. I'm thinking of dozens and dozens and dozens of applications that you could build an app for that would be beneficial to consumers and seller of services and all kind of things like that from, I'm just going nuts in my mind thinking about it. I think you're really on to something, and I certainly hope it's not lost on you that what you develop for the homeowner experience and dealing with the realtor and the lender is certainly something that can move over into different genres of business that are out there today.
Well, we'll tell you a story that's a little unscripted, but it's relevant for anybody who's listening. When we started Milestones, we thought about big ticket transactions or events that you go through in your life as a consumer. Right? Most of us will go through, we'll go to college, we'll get our first job, we might get married, we might expand a family, we'll get a home, and we'll probably go through retirement and, kind of later years in life stuff. What's interesting is that as we're going through these things, we don't do them very often. And because we don't do them very often, usually the process of doing them is kind of a mystery to us when we go and do them for the first time. And this is where typically we hire help. Right? We hire a realtor, we hire a lender, we hire a wedding planner, we hire a college admissions counselor for our kids, or we hire a financial planner to help us navigate retirement. Generally, those folks who are serving us in that advisory capacity have a bunch of tools and resources behind the scenes that they use, but those are largely invisible to their actual clients, in our case, the homeowner or other things. So when we started Milestones, we definitely had these things in mind and said, there's probably applications for what we built, the sort of dynamic collaborative environment for getting through these big, hairy transactions in your life, if you'd even call them those. We just had to pick a place to focus first. And for us, that was clearly real estate and lending. It was industries that we knew well, we'd spent a lifetime in them. But overall, we see this as something much, much larger. We just have to step our way there.
Outstanding. Well, Ashley, how do you describe the Milestone home experience from looking at it from 1,000 feet, looking down on what's happening?
Yeah. So kind of diving in a little deeper to what I was saying earlier and having all things to manage in place. I think that there's a lot of aspects that go into home ownership and going back into how do we give that instant gratification where it's easy, consumers can get everything into one place. And again, having that be gifted from their loan officer, somebody that they've already built a relationship with and that's already acted for them as home advisors. So the things that fall into home ownership could be everything from understanding your home value and your home equity, which I think in today's market wasn't as exciting as it was for the last 2 years. And now that we know that maybe our equity isn't going up so much, well, what do we do? Maybe if I'm going to stay here for a while and maybe I want to pull some of this cash out and, redo my kitchen. Or if I do hit that milestone in my life and I need to turn that loft into a nursery because I'm not about to buy a new home in the market, what are my options and how do I do that? And so everything from understanding that what I call asset value, and then also how can you use that asset in your favor in your day-to-day life? And even beyond that, even when it comes to just basic maintenance, those reminders, I'm embarrassed to say I am one of those guilty people of not changing my air filter for 3 years. Well, I did it for my first time actually when I was giving a milestones demo, and I realized that that was one of the tests on there, and I haven't done it. So thank you, Dustin, for reminding me. Um, but there's just so much that goes into it, and it's so easy to lose track of that. So how do we make that easy and simple where you can understand that value and equity and that asset value, where you can, know how do I change my air filter? Or what do I need to do? How often do I need to do this? What do I need to do to get my home ready for the winter now that we're getting into that snow season? Or, how do I, get in touch with a contractor and for it being even beyond going to Yelp, right? It felt like getting your monthly home equity report in your email and then having to go to Yelp and then having to go to Zillow and going to all these different places where it's fragmented. Let's bring it into one experience that is offered from that loan officer and potentially the realtor that they're a partner with and give that homeowner that experience all in one place.
I'm going to tell you guys a little story. 12 months ago, almost to the day, my wife and I learned that we were pregnant with what would later become our second son. And there was a moment of congratulations and then kind of reality set in. And we said, oh, how are we going to make this work? For us, we were out of space. So we had a bit of a fork in the road where either we needed to pick up and move or we needed to add on to the house. And we'd never done anything like this before. So we needed education. We needed recommendations to an architect and to a builder, or needed to shop around and get multiple quotes to do this work. And then we needed to borrow money because this was going to be a fairly significant undertaking. And so we needed to borrow money against the value of our home. And so none of this was planned per se, but from a homeowner home, I should be able to go in, figure out my home equity, figure out what I can borrow, raise my hand, reach out to my lender, start filling out a loan application for a refi or HELOC, look through some recommendations, see who my realtor, who my lender likes to work with locally to do building projects and architecture, et cetera, et cetera. All this stuff should just be here. And then I probably need my own crash course in how to navigate a renovation project because there's a lot of moving parts. As a consumer, that's what I want. And that is exactly what we're building bit by bit because it's so important. And whoever's there with me is going to get that business. They couldn't have predicted that my wife and I would get pregnant, but they certainly could say, oh, by the way, I'm right here for you. Congratulations. And by the way, how can I help? That's where this is going.
Yeah, that is so good. I, I, I think that telling the story like we're going to have a baby, that's one of those milestone moments that Ashley talked about. That is, wow, what do we do now? And to have a portal, to have a hub where you can go in and already connected with all the former business partners, parties that were involved in everything that's led up to where you're at now, to be able to access that community and say, hey, going to have a baby, congratulations, but help, we need help. And all the feedback that can come in, it's taking social media almost to another level of really practically bringing it into play to what you're doing. I love it. Actually, you made a couple of really good points. One of the ones that I particularly picked up on is I grew up in Minnesota, born in North Dakota, raised in Minnesota. I know how to leave our home and go on a vacation and how we winterize a home in Minnesota. You have to put antifreeze into the toilets, literally pour antifreeze into the toilets so that they don't freeze and crack the porcelain when you're gone in case you lose heat. There's all these things you would never know what to do, especially we moved from there to Seattle. That's a different climate. Moved from there to Texas. That's a different climate to Southern California, and bounced around the country, zigzagged around. Each one of these areas have different requirements on how to manage and that home. You may think, listener, that the person you're selling this home to or financing a home to understands all this, but the areas we live brings about a whole new set of things you need to know about that. I don't care how experienced of a homeowner or handyman you are, or where you were. Yes, you got Google, but how valuable is something like this? Which really gets to this. Dustin, is starting to look forward in time. What do you see happening in the mortgage industry in 2023? And how does Milestones fit given the current happenings?
Well, look, anybody listening to this knows that it's not a particularly great time to say to a client, now's the right time to buy a home or get a loan, right? You've got still high home prices and quite high interest rates. And most Americans are stretched pretty thin at this point financially. And, this is going to stay that way for a while, at least a year, but probably longer, right? So people are going to be parked in their homes, maybe longer than they anticipated, and transactions are going to fall by at least a third next year. What can you do right now? Right? There's 110 million homes in the United States, and 106 million of them at least are not going to transact next year. So if you're a lender, the question you should be asking is, what value can I deliver to those 106 million households who are not going to transact tomorrow? What seeds can I plant right now that are going to grow in the future when we come out of this tough period? And from Milestones' perspective, it's time to really get busy investing in those relationships and playing the long game as best you can while weathering the storm. So for us, this means staying connected and demonstrating value to homeowners. And if you're an LO or a realtor, you want to have a reason to reach out and talk to those clients. That has to fit today's narrative. And today's narrative is, let's help you make the most of the home that you have. And when you need me, I'm on call to help you borrow more money or move. And this is where Milestones fits in. We want to keep that conversation going organically between the lender and the client.
Good.
Week after week at scale without a lot of effort, and keep delivering value for months on end until somebody's ready to jump out and do something again.
I look at how adding value. A lot of people right now is sending recipes on how to fix the bird. That is so surfacey and shallow, and is not, I find those almost annoying. I really find those things annoying. So this is much more substantive type of sharing of information.
Man, David first would have to teach you to cook, buddy.
Yeah, I that's that's why they have order out. That's where Uber Eats comes in handy.
That's for sure. Ashley, it seems like to me as I listen to the milestone story, you have something very unique going on here. So this uniqueness you have, I'm sure, postures you for a different appeal with the homeowner consumer for life apps in the market today. And how does that posture you for your growth and for people to use your app, et cetera?
Yeah. So I think, going back to David's point about these emails going out about recipes on how to make a turkey, and it's so generic. This is something that's very intimate to the homeowner. I mean, their home it's something where you make memories. It's your biggest investment. I always say that real estate in general is probably the most relationship based industry out there because it's such an emotional transaction for the homeowner. So this is something very intimate that the loan officer in partnership with their realtor or independently without a realtor can give back to the homeowner to keep that homeowner engaged, but give them something that's intimate and of value and holistic and comprehensive to like the overall journey of homeownership. I think that the other piece of it too is that in addition to it being a value to the homeowner, you have those relationships with your realtor that you're trying to nurture. And we know that, most lenders do most of their business off of relationships with realtors. So how can I even give something back to a realtor where I'm giving them something of value to stay engaged with homeowners with? How can we do this together as a team? And so I think that there's, tools out there that yes, they co-brand two different entities and have them get in front of homeowners, but how do we do it in a way that's intimate, that's going to be there for those milestones in their life, and that's going to really help advise them through the whole process? And I think that that's where we stand apart.
Well, as a follow-up question to that, I know that lenders and realtors are extremely busy folks, and I know they have their set of steps they go to reach their goal on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. How do you sell to that mentality that's been embedded for decades in realtors and lenders about getting the job done, getting to a sales position on the house, getting the loan done on the house? How do you bring the app into play to show the value added aspect of it and to get them to say, yes, I have 15 more minutes that I need to spend learning this app and working with my customers on it because it's important for both me and the customer. How does that transition work?
Well,
I think sorry, Ashley, you first, I'll follow.
I was going to say, I think that one of the nice things about this is it doesn't take a ton of time. Right? The whole
Yep.
point is if you're a real estate agent, your job is to go sell houses. If you are a loan officer, your job is to go fund loans. And it's all about how do I become more efficient in my job day to day without having to take time away from it. I always have to laugh when I see engagement metrics about how many logins into a piece of technology because I actually don't think that people should have to be logging in to have ROI. The whole point of it is leave it alone, let it work for you. When the engagement happens, cool. That's when the hand was raised and that's when
It
you reach
went.
out
Yeah.
versus having to track it. And so I think that, and again, to kind of what Dustin's been focused on here, this is a non-transactional time. This is all of those years where they're not transacting and you can make sure that you're in front of them for when they are transacting. And I mean, gosh, if you have to log in every day to figure out when somebody's transacting, that's a problem. you know?
That's right. Certainly is.
Dustin,
You
do you
know,
have add to that?
to follow up on that, I don't think technology should require people to do a lot. So for starters, we connect our technology to things that people already use. Most lenders have a CRM. We can connect it to your CRM and things can run from there more or less on auto. Most lenders have a point of sale system. We can connect to that too, so that when a transaction concludes, you say to the homeowner, congratulations, getting the home. Here's what's next. So I think the first part of the question is don't make your technology need a bunch of human touch in order to deliver value and engage. The next piece I'd say is if you're a lender, it's about redefining yourself in the eyes of your clients. And this, I think, is a huge opportunity. We're in this industry where people work with their lender and their realtor once on average, and then they throw them away. This is true like the vast majority of the time. And this is not a secret to anybody. And all that really does is it pushes up customer acquisition costs sky high. If you think about if you went to a restaurant and no one ever came back to the restaurant would be out of business. And so if we think about this from a repeat customers and referrals standpoint, in my own mind, it goes something like this. If I'm the loan officer, I would say to my client, I'm not your LO. I'm your advisor that's going to help you through thick and thin make smart decisions about your home and build wealth. And I'm going to get your loan funded and I'm going to give you this homeowner portal. And hey, it's really exciting to get a home, but homeownership's kind of a mess. And so when you run into things in that process that might slow you down or trip you up, the answers are probably going to be there along with me. And if you want to learn how to take care of your house or get something fixed or make it better or just avoid the pitfalls that people tend to fall into left and right with home ownership, I'm going to be a resource and I've got this packaged up for you. And by the way, sometime in this journey, probably going to need to borrow money again, whether it's to improve your house, to get another house, to pay for something else that sprung up in your life. And when that day comes, this is, of course, the magic. When after repeated touch points over and over again, the consumer says, oh, yeah, I'm going to go back into my HUD because Larry,
Yeah.
my lender, is right there and I'm going to raise my hand and he's going to help guide me or she's going to help guide me through at the push of a button. And that's the magic that you want. Technology enables you to do this at scale, to work on 400 clients at a time and deliver that personalized touch points where you couldn't just pick up the phone once a week and call them all. You'd run out of hours in a day. That's what this is all about.
Which really touches on the fact that this is a relationship driven business. We've done a terrible job of getting the repeat relationship to come back, the repeat business, which means we failed miserably in the relationship side of it. And I think what you're really talking about there, Dustin, is the becoming a trusted advisor. So if you're a lender listening to this podcast, how does someone become a trusted advisor for all things home related?
I think you have to start with that holistic approach and understand where people have problems. And it goes beyond just shipping them a little email every month that says, here's what your home's worth. That was kind of cute the last 5 years because everybody's home values were, going
Sure.
up and up and up. But I'll tell you that that's not going to cut it if you're a lender anymore. And the reason is pretty simple. I avoid looking at my 401k because it's dropped to a 4K in the last year. No one wants to watch the value of their assets decline. It's depressing. I don't log into Charles Schwab for this reason. And so I think you have to reset your expectations and say, hey, there's many facets of homeownership. How can we, in as elegant a way possible, make a resource that is part tools, part information, part education, part collaboration, and make sure that the lender and the realtor, who for most homeowners, you placed a great deal of trust to help you make the biggest financial decision of your life. Think about how unnatural it is that those people like disappear the next day. And that's where I think this industry has a huge opportunity to do something different going forward. Never look at a crisis and miss the opportunity to redefine yourself and frankly grab market share coming out of it. I think it's going to be a great time for companies that get it and move opportunistically.
Well, actually, Dustin kind of covered a little bit of this earlier about how the technology fits in because we talked about the customer relationship management products and et cetera. But are there any unique aspects of how Milestones fits into with the use of the technology with lenders that you'd like to go over?
Yeah. So I think, where Milestone sits is it's really a great tool for homeowners to engage with. Where the CRM sits, that's a tool to help, a loan officer be more efficient in their day to day life and kind of manage their day to day life. And that's more of a portal that they're logging into. Same thing with point of sale systems. So we integrate in very well with all of those where it's more of that consumer experience. And then how can we help each other where, from a CRM standpoint, let's take all of those contacts in the CRM to make sure that they're in Milestones. And in turn, let's take the activity that's happening in Milestones and give that back to the CRM if they want to do any other marketing to those contacts that are maybe not so specific to the home. We are very specific to the asset of the home and how we do marketing. And we're not trying to send out recipes on how to cook a Thanksgiving dinner, you know? But if there are some cool activities and life events that happen in Milestones where there's some of those triggers, well, then let's share it. We're not trying to be that by any means. And I think when we look at something more like a point of sale system, where can we automate it for the loan officer so they don't even have to necessarily bake this in It's just something that a user has to do in the transaction process and something that just automatically happens for congratulations on your new home. Here's a closing gift for you. So it sits nicely on top of all of them.
We called Milestones something brand new. We called it a homeowner management system.
I
And
like.
the reason why we did this, I can't take credit for this. One of our investors is a gentleman named Tom Ferry, who's a prolific real estate coach.
Oh
And
yeah.
we were sitting around a whiteboard, and he said, "Well, this isn't a CRM. This is a homeowner management system. A CRM is wonderful for leads.
Hmm.
This isn't about leads. These are about your most trusted clients that you helped get a home or borrow money. And those are different than strangers that submitted a lead form that you might have purchased or went to your website and filled something out that are kind of tire kickers or looky loos. This is about thinking about mortgage like a wealth manager would think about getting assets under management. Your assets under management, if you're a lender, is the aggregate or some value of all the houses or loans that you funded. And when you think about that, you don't hire a wealth manager for like one transaction and then disappear. You have that wealth manager for decades, and they're going to help you adapt your money. And so when we thought about this, it was a cute name that we worked on with Tom, but the meaning behind it was significant. This is your forever clients, and you want to be there with them no matter where they are in their home or their life. And that's going to win in the long term.
I'll never forget when my nephew adopted a child out of the foster system. And one of the most touching things that she said when she came out of that, she said, "You mean you're going to be my forever family?" And I get choked up even thinking about that because she had been bounced around with so many foster homes. And I like the concept that this is a forever system that helps people stay connected to the most important transaction of their life. So as I think about this, and we've got to wrap this up because we could go on and on and on about this. This has got to be an amazingly expensive system based on all the things you're doing, how you're helping loan officers connect with the realtor connect with the loan officers, and all of those two enabling together, connecting to the consumer. So this has got to be, I'm assuming, a very expensive system. Ashley, how much does this cost?
It's not expensive. It's it's very, very affordable. And we're starting at, depending on scale, up or down, of $25 per loan officer per
Are you
month.
serious?
Yeah, unlimited, as many homeowners as you want in there. So there's
Unlimited number of homeowners at $25 a month? Are you serious?
that's it. We have a
You
lot of
did hear that Dustin just has a new son on here. Is this going to put him through? That's amazing. I this
yeah,
what you're talking about. This is a scale. This is something that you've priced this to the point where for this to make it to do well, and it should be something that the entire industry should embrace.
correct.
Well, David, it is built for scale. It's not built to try and optimize every possible dollar we could pull out of an LO's pocket, especially not right now. The industry itself is not, in a point where it's going to throw money at tech when the industry is on fire. In reality, we have a lot of partners that are already huge, that are bringing Milestones to market, in the hundreds of thousands or millions of homeowners at a time scale. And, it's not really a secret. You can kind of follow us on social media or look at our website, figure out who some of these partners are, and there'll be a lot more announced in Q1. It's built to have millions of homeowners on it as gifted to them through their agent or lender and their brand. And that's the point. It should be a low cost, super high value appliance that runs in the background for thousands of companies. And that's exactly where it is and where it's headed.
Mark, as my co-host, you sit and listen to some things. We're so fortunate to sit where we do, Mark, looking at and interviewing companies and individuals behind those companies like we are today. What's your thoughts as you listen to this one?
I'm still out there thinking about 20,000 different other things it could be used for. Uh,
Wow.
and how you might be laying the groundwork here for something that could revolutionize the way we deal with stuff in our daily life, whether it be, I was thinking about how many of us use storage facilities that we have 6 storage facilities we use in different cities, right? And
Right.
these are personal ones when we move around. Well, I have no idea what's in those buildings. I have no idea where I got enough insurance on them to cover what's in there. And I could see the application of an app be done by the people on the storage facilities to work with the people. So when they put stuff in it, they got an inventory. They know which room has what. They know whether they have appropriate insurance on it, et cetera. I mean, I could just go on and on, and I could apply that to hundreds of other things. And I think you're really on to something. I think you're going to be very, very, very successful. And I'm honored to hear about your program today and what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think this is something that is we're in on the ground floor of something that I think we're going to look back on in 20 years and going, who came up with this? I mean, it's really exciting. It doesn't. I love your innovation. From the moment I met you, I just knew you thought differently than the average bear out there. You just saw the world in such a way that was going to be a journey where I'm going to get at the front seat of innovation that we have not seen. And boy, this is exactly what's shown up. And again, I make my point earlier, you surround yourself with some of the investors you surround yourself, Ashley, who you surround yourself, helping you on the executive team. There, talk a little bit about some of the people that are behind this. Realtor.com, who is invested in this, and Tom Ferry. You talked about the fact that he's bought into this. He's one of the top coaches in the real estate space. Can you, either one of you, add to that?
Well, just a quick point of correction. The National Association of
National
Realtors
Association, yeah, that's what it is, not Realtor.com. Yeah,
has a venture fund, and that sits separate from Realtor.com, which is, of course, owned by News Corporation, and it's a private company. We've been really fortunate to have some quite smart folks, very accomplished in real estate and mortgage, take early bets on this company. This goes, everyone from F&F to Tom Ferry and, numerous others.
For those that don't know who F&F is, those that don't know who F&F is,
Fidelity National Financial is the largest title and escrow company in the United States, and saw this as, of course, a wonderful closing gift for people who just bought a home. And what could that look like? Of course, they're still trying to figure out a bit. But I think, to summarize, we didn't come up with anything that people in this industry hadn't dreamed about for the last 20 years, right? It's sort of part Angie's List, part private Zillow, part nerd wallet for education, right? There's concepts that are out there already.
Mhm.
The challenge is putting them all together in a package that you don't go bankrupt building, because it will take you 4 years to build this, at least, and get it right. Here we are almost 4 years in. We can certainly attest to that. There's 55 people working on this full time, and we never have enough hours in the day. So the question wasn't, is this viable or should this happen? The one-stop shop or the digital customer journey for all things homeownership is going to happen.
right?
But doing it in a way where you make the complex feel easy takes a lot of resources to get it right. And if there's one thing that I'm fortunate, is that we've brought together some really smart, patient people to
That's good.
help us get from point A to point B to point C. And I think that is really, in the end, the difference is getting those people who are smart and passionate, and those personalities and capital to be able to say, this is not a quick win. This is not an app that you build in 6 months and it's all great and you explode. It's something that takes years and years to hone it in collaboration with your clients to get it right. And I think we're just at the precipice of really breaking out. So I'm excited to connect with this group and hope that some of you come along for the ride.
Well, it's been a real honor, as Mark said earlier, to have both of you on the podcast. Thank you so much. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. Dustin, thank you so much for the vision and giving us an opportunity to share it with our listeners. Thank you so much. How can people learn more about it? Where can they go? Get a hold of Ashley?
Milestones.ai will give you plenty of information, and will, of course, lead you straight to Ashley in the end.
That's good. I've enjoyed getting to know Ashley, as I've known you for a while, Dustin. And I got to tell you, you're going to be enjoying the conversation. Folks, get out there and make the connection through Milestones.ai. Get a hold of Ashley and get this communication going. Get in on the ground floor of, I think, of something that we're going to all be looking back at and go like, why was I not at the seat at this table? And you need to be if you're going to be successful. Dustin, congratulations on building something I think is going to be your greatest success. And Ashley, thank you for joining him, because I think you're going to be a great person to help him make this dream come reality for all of us. Thank you both.
Thank you, David and Mark, for having us.
Nice to meet you both.
Appreciate you.
You bet.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending, a weekly mortgage market update with your host David Lykken of Transformational Mortgage Solutions. Join us next week, and thanks for listening.